In the early 20th century, a captivating yet heart-wrenching story unfolded, centered around two albino African-American brothers, George and Willie Muse. Their lives took a dramatic turn when they were plucked from a Virginia farm and thrust into the bright lights of the circus world. Their story is one of uniqueness, exploitation, and ultimately, liberation. George and Willie Muse, the eldest of 5 siblings, were born to Harriet Muse in the small community of Truvine on the outskirts of Roanoke, Virginia. Born with albinism, a genetic condition that bestowed upon them pale skin, white hair, and striking blue eyes, they possessed features that set them apart from their peers. In addition to albinism, both boys also had nystagmus, a common occurrence with albinism that affected their vision. Their struggles with light sensitivity began so early that by the ages of 6 and 9, they already had permanent furrows etched into their foreheads. Imagine, if you will, the life of young George and Willie Muse, growing up in a time where being different could mean being ostracized or exploited. Their mother, Harriet, a woman of profound strength and resilience, did everything in her power to shield her sons from the harsh realities of the world outside Truvine. The brothers were known in their community as gentle, kind-hearted boys with a love for music and play. George, the elder by a few minutes, was often the protector, while Willie, with his infectious smile, was the peacemaker. Their days were spent in the simplicity of farm life, but even this idyll was tinged with the ever-present shadow of their unique condition. They could not work in the fields under the sun like their siblings, for fear of sunburn or further damage to their sensitive eyes. Instead, they found solace in the cool shade of the barn or the dim light of their family's home. The local church became a refuge where they could sing and play the piano, their voices blending in harmony, a stark contrast to the discord they would later face. Here, they were known not for their appearance, but for their talents, their community embracing them as part of the fabric of Truvine. But fate had other plans for George and Willie. In 1899, when they were just 9 and 6 years old, their world was shattered by an event that would change the course of their lives forever. A man named Charles Reed, a circus talent scout, saw in them not the potential for a life in music, but rather the spectacle they could provide in the circus world. Reed, with promises of fame and fortune, convinced Harriet to let him take her sons to a local fair, assuring her they would be back within days. But the days turned into weeks and the weeks into years, as Reed sold the boys to a traveling circus, far from their home, far from their family. The brothers were now in the hands of the circus, where they were transformed into Echo and Iko, the ambassadors from Mars. Their act was one of wonder for audiences, but a nightmare for the boys, who were paraded as wild men from another planet, their humanity stripped away for the sake of entertainment. This transition from the safety of home to the harsh reality of the circus was not just a physical journey, but a psychological one. They were now commodities, their value measured by the gasps and applause of crowds who marveled at their unique appearance, ignorant or indifferent to the human cost. Yet, amidst the exploitation, there were glimmers of resilience. The brothers learned to sing and dance, incorporating their talents into their act, perhaps as a way to reclaim some sense of self amidst the dehumanization. Their performances, while still exploitative, allowed them moments of personal expression, a small rebellion against their imposed identity. And so, the story of George and Willie Muse begins, not with the freedom they were born into, but with the chains of spectacle and the struggle for identity in a world that often refused to see them as anything more than a curiosity. Their tale is one that echoes through time, reminding us of the complexities of human history, where the lines between entertainment and exploitation, between freedom and captivity, are often blurred. In the early 20th century, a captivating yet heart-wrenching story unfolded, centered around two albino African-American brothers, George and Willie Muse. Their lives took a dramatic turn when they were plucked from a Virginia farm and thrust into the bright lights of the circus world. Their story is one of uniqueness, exploitation, and ultimately, liberation. George and Willie Muse, the eldest of 5 siblings, were born to Harriet Muse in the small community of Truvine on the outskirts of Roanoke, Virginia. Born with albinism, a genetic condition that bestowed upon them pale skin, white hair, and striking blue eyes, they possessed features that set them apart from their peers. In addition to albinism, both boys also had nystagmus, a common occurrence with albinism that affected their vision. Their struggles with light sensitivity began so early that by the ages of 6 and 9, they already had permanent furrows etched into their foreheads. As years passed, George and Willie Muse became fixtures in the world of sideshows and circuses, their lives a stark contrast to the simplicity of their early days in Truvine. Their mother, Harriet, never ceased her search for her boys, a quest fueled by a mother's love and an unwavering belief that her sons would return home one day. The brothers' journey through the circus world was a complex tapestry of fame, hardship, and resilience. They traveled across the country, from one circus tent to another, their act evolving with the changing times. By the early 1920s, they had become known as the White Ecuadorian Cannibals, a name that played into the era's fascination with exoticism and the savage other. Single quote. This persona was both a source of their fame and a continuation of their exploitation, as they were often portrayed in ways that were far from the truth of their gentle nature. Despite the exotic roles they were forced to play, George and Willie did find moments of agency within their performances. They incorporated music into their acts, singing and playing instruments, which allowed them to connect with audiences on a more personal level. Their voices, once confined to the church in Truvine, now echoed through the grand tents of circuses, a reminder of the boys they once were. Yet, the life of a circus performer was not without its trials. They endured the physical toll of constant travel, the emotional strain of being away from family, and the constant reminder of their otherness. They were often paid less than their white counterparts, a stark reflection of the racial prejudices of the time. In 1927, a significant event occurred that would alter the course of their lives once more. Harriet Muse, against all odds, found her sons in North Carolina performing with a circus. The reunion was emotional, filled with tears, laughter, and a flood of memories. Harriet's determination had paid off, but the question remained, what now for George and Willie? The brothers chose to continue performing, now with a degree of autonomy, but their mother's influence was evident. They insisted on being treated with respect, and their acts began to reflect their true selves more than ever before. They sang, they danced, they told stories of their journey, weaving in elements of their real lives into their performances. In the 1930s, the Muse Brothers' fame reached its peak. They performed with the biggest names in circus entertainment, speaking out against the exploitation of people with disabilities or unique appearances. They shared their story, not for sympathy, but to educate and to prevent future generations from experiencing the same. Their tale was now one of empowerment, a testament to the strength found in adversity. Their mother, Harriet, lived to see her son's legacy shift from one of spectacle to one of respect. She passed away in 1979, surrounded by the love of her family, her heart finally at peace knowing that George and Willie were not just surviving but thriving, their names etched in history for a different reason. In 1999, George Muse passed away at the age of 108, followed by Willie in 2001, at the age of 105. Their lives spanned a century, witnessing America's transformation from a nation that often exploited its differences to one that was beginning to embrace them. Their legacy is a complex one, a tapestry woven from threads of pain, resilience, and the unyielding human spirit. Today, the story of George and Willie Muse is told not in circus tents, but in history books, documentaries, and conversations about race, disability, and human rights. Their names evoke not just the oddity they were once labeled with, but the dignity they reclaimed. The Truvine community, where their journey began, now hosts an annual festival in their honor, celebrating not just their lives, but the lessons they taught about resilience, family, and the search for identity in a world that often refused to see them as they truly were. The story of George and Willie Muse invites us to pause and reflect on the complexities of human history. It reminds us that behind every spectacle, there is a human story, a narrative of struggle and triumph. Their lives challenge us to look beyond the surface, to question the ethics of entertainment, and to recognize the dignity inherent in every individual, no matter how different they might appear.